which is not from this year, but last week, it's our last concert. We asked one of their favorite songs they played so far was, and so joy. We spent a lot of time on last year. It's a good one. next year, going to college in the fall. But do not hesitate, starting from now onward. Send me emails, ask me questions. If there's anything I can help you with, please do not hesitate. It's been truly like an honor and joy to work with you guys, and I'm so, so proud of all of y'all's progress. So, congratulations. With that, we're done. Okay, before we do beads and cookies and everything, we have a guest musician from the Kansas City Symphony here with us. And hear from him. Lloyd
Howard, yeah.
Howard from the Kansas City Symphony.
Hello. Great to see you all. Great concert. I think it's so cool you're all playing violin. I started on, I started on piano when I was like 5, but I started string playing on violin when I was about 10, and I picked up a bass maybe a year later. So I think that's very cool. Yeah, and I play in the Kansas City Symphony. I don't know if anyone knows Larry Fig, the cellist. He's around sometimes. He's a colleague of mine in the symphony, and he asked me to play today, so happy to be here. I'm just gonna like play a few notes to warm up, sort of. Just get the bass in tune. Start by playing my lowest note for you, right? This sounds like a rumble, doesn't it? Sometimes if I work my way down to it, you can hear the pitch better. And I think it's cool. You can see the string vibrating. It's so thick.
You see how thick those strings are?
No.
It's like almost as thick as well, it's not quite as thick as a pencil, but it's it's getting there. So let's see. I'll start with a piece called "The Elephant." This is by Camille Saint-Saëns, and he wrote this piece called "Carnival of the Animals," and a different little piece about a bunch of different animals. But of course, the bass movement is about the elephant, and so I like to picture that the first part of the piece. The elephant's kind of lumbering around on land, swinging its trunk. And then in the middle, it jumps into a pond and goes for a little swim. It's kind of more graceful. And then it gets out and sort of lumbers around a little more. So this is the elephant. Clumsy music on a bass. Sometimes that's what composers write for us, but here is a nice air, which is just like a song by Gluck. Gluck is the name of the composer. It might have been written for violin originally, but we like to steal music that was written for other instruments. So this is just an air. was actually written by bass players who understood the instrument really well, and so they could come up with little tricks that look really fancy and hard, but are actually not as hard as they look. But anyway, one of these bass player composers had the great name of Dragonetti. So we always loved Dragonetti's music, and he wrote this piece, and it's just, he wrote actually 12 pieces that are all waltzes, 12 waltzes, and I'm gonna play number 3. And so waltz is something people dance to. And I had like this idea in my head that the first part of the piece is a wacky dance, like kids might do, right? But then in the middle, so that's kind of sound, I'll give you a little taste. It sounds like this. Something like that. In the middle, it gets really rigid, almost like people should be doing the robot here. So, do you know the robot guy? That's just a dance where you just do that. And then there's a part, it's kind of like the worm, where it's like this kind of thing. So, wacky, robot, worm, and then it's wacky again. And that's sort of the picture, that's the character I have in my head. So this is the waltz by Dragonetti. Questions about the bass or playing in the symphony, we could do a little Q&A. But yeah, I'm gonna play one more thing. The cool thing about the bass is you need a bass in every ensemble, every band, rock band, country, jazz, gospel, everything. And I played a lot of jazz growing up and learning to play the bass, and you know, I don't have as much time for it in the symphony, but I still like to play jazz a lot. And one of my favorite jazz players is named Christian McBride, and he recorded this tune, Night Train, as a solo bass. So I'm going to sort of like copy / steal his version of Night Train and play that for you now. questions for me about bass or practicing or? Oh, I see it. Hand in the back right away. Yeah.
How long do you practice for?
How long do I practice? Oh, gosh, it varies a lot. When I was in college and grad school, I was like really focused on becoming a professional musician and getting a job. And so my goal was to practice like 5 hours a day. And that was what I did. And lately, as I'm getting busier with the symphony, I practice less. I try and be smarter about it so that every minute I spend with the instrument is spent smartly. So if I get like 2 hours now, that's great. That's sort of my goal, on top of all the rehearsing and performing we do. So, yeah. So a lot.
Why is there extra keys on the squirrel?
Oh, yeah, good question. I meant to say, so when I talked about my lowest notes, so the bass kind of evolved as an instrument. People tuned it different ways, and eventually our lowest string was an E string. But there's all these bass parts where we're supposed to double the cellos an octave lower, and the cellos have a low C string. So we have this, it's called an extension, and it's an extra bit of fingerboard just on the lowest string, and it allows me to play from E all the way down to the low C, just on that string. And I can push this lever here and just have it stopped on a D, because sometimes we have to play. And if you didn't have that lever, you have to do that. It's not so easy. So yeah, great question. Called an extension. Yeah.
I have a question.
Yeah.
I've noticed two things. Did you guys notice this vocal? Just wait till it comes out.
Yeah.
That's
So,
my line.
part of the evolution of the bass, a lot of people, some bass players hold the bow like underhand like this, and some people hold it overhand like a violin. And we call this French bow, and this is called German bow. My first teacher played German bow, so I played German bow. And that's kind of how it goes. Whoever starts you, whatever bow hold they know. And I think there are advantages and disadvantages to either. A lot of times I wish I played French bow, because I'm like, oh, that would be easier if I played French bow. But it's just kind of a quirky bass thing. And you have to have a different bow with a larger frog to make that work. And some people are good at both, but most people are only good at one. So, yeah.
I have another question, which is, can you show us the difference between a half step and a whole step on your bow string?
Sure. So like, we finger things a little differently, because in order for me to reach a half step, it's about that wide, and then the next half step, I don't use my third finger at all, I use my fourth finger. Because if I had to reach, I put my finger, I have a pretty big hand, and I can't actually reach far enough to reach a half step with each finger like you do on a violin or a cello. So yeah, it's pretty wide.
4 half steps as long as our neck, our instrument.
Yeah.
Okay, we have time for one more question for Beth, because
How do you fit it in the car?
How do we fit in my car? Oh, good question. It goes on its back. I got some like little cushions in there, and it goes on its back. And when I'm driving, the scroll is right at my elbow. And you always have to have. I actually have not a huge car for bass, but it's a hatchback. It has to be a hatchback to slide it in. Some people have minivans or bigger SUVs or something. And when we fly with it, which is a whole ordeal, they make a big fiberglass hard case for it. And that's even bigger and heavier. It weighs like 100 pounds. It has wheels. And in some cars, it's like, if you're driving, the case has to come like right next to your head, because they're so big. It's like, 7 feet tall or something like that. So, anyway.
so my last thing is, these are year 5 Sprouts, so they just finished their last year of the curriculum.
Mm-hmm.
And I was wondering, I assume you played in high school, then played in college,
Mm-hmm.
did grad school. I'm assuming different points in your career, you sort of reached points where the structure that kind of forced you to keep practicing and stay like really in with the instrument changed, or maybe you didn't have some file.
Oh, yeah.
And I was curious, for these students who now won't have Sprouts anymore, but soon maybe school, but there's going to be some time in between, what would be the advice you have for staying motivated, keeping it up?
Yeah, well, find music that you love and work on that. pieces that you love, keep playing those. And I think enjoying the process of it is really important. You know, it's fun to perform pieces, but sometimes that initial learning phase is like, it's a little, it's like, oh, I don't know how to play this, and it's not as fun, but the growth from learning to play something from the beginning has gotta be like what you really enjoy. So find new music, I'm sure online, you know, there's so many great pieces out there for all levels of players. And I think also, you know, listening to music a lot is really important because, you know, you'll just find more music you love, and you'll stay motivated to, you know, learn different songs of yours that you enjoy.